Hi, everybody. I'm Gwendolyn Sterk from Sterk Family Law, and I have the privilege today to be with Steve Balich. Thanks for coming out to our office.
Thank you.
So, Steve is the Will County Board Member for District 7, correct?
Correct.
And then you represent Homer Glen, City of Lockport, and north of I-80 in New Lenox, correct? So today we're going to talk about post-high school education. It's quite a topic, isn't it?
It sure is.
And one of the concerns you have in general is the student debt crisis that we're in. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, when you look at student debt, the interest rate is somewhere between 6.5% and 8%. So now, if you have a $250,000 loan,
Not uncommon.
Not uncommon. If you, because I have a friend that called me complaining about it, and I told him, well, this is what I advised, So we have a guy that has that loan. He can't pay the principal because he can't afford the loan, actually.
Right.
So he pays the interest. It costs him $2,000 a month.
For interest
only.
Right.
And he does that so he keeps his credit good.
Right.
But the reality is he's paying $2,000 a month for the privilege of having a student loan.
And for the privilege of having that education that qualifies them then to do his occupation.
I forgot about that part.
Yeah,
That's
there
important.
you go. It is important. But the other thing is that even among the people that come through here or throughout the course of my 30 years in the profession is that the student debts are getting higher, and it's very difficult to somebody to enter into the legal field or the medical field or any type of profession or even getting their undergraduate degree. They walk out with these high debts, and it's a crisis.
Well, my solution is pretty simple.
Okay.
And it's
what is your solution?
My solution is to lower the interest rate to prime. Why does it have to be 6.5% to 8.5% when a person can't declare bankruptcy on it?
Absolutely not. They can't.
And if I'm not mistaken, if you don't pay it, IRS goes to your returns.
They're going to go into their returns and take it, right?
So these loans are pretty well guaranteed. I know it's not like a risky deal.
Sure.
So why is it so much over prime? Let's reduce it to prime or maybe a little less than prime.
Right, and then let's also talk about the parents who are out there with the children, and they're looking at, and maybe you have a senior in high school this year, and you're considering, where is it that I should send my child to school? One of the things recently, I did a case because we deal with college contribution, and of course, all of this information is confidential in terms of the details of the case, but we were looking at the fact that University of Illinois has set amount of tuition costs, and it's not supposed to rise every year. So we got into really going through the expenses. And the fees raised every year, right? So at the end of the day, the bottom line was a higher number, and we were trying to get to, how did it get higher? But the issue was that the fees increased even though the tuition didn't. So it's kind of a unique set of circumstances because really parents are in crisis. They don't know what they want to do. They want to send their kids to college. Wouldn't you say that in society today there's an assumption that people are going to send their kids to college?
It's an assumption that people learn from the time their child's born.
Right, and I think that that's the society that we've gotten into, even though there might be alternatives to pursue that might be a little different. Now, I'm an advocate of a college education, but at the same time, I think there also has to be cost factors that are there.
Absolutely. There's a problem where we have a necessity to get more plumbers, more carpenters, more electricians, more people that can operate heavy equipment, more truck drivers. And we're not going after them because everyone is planning on going to college. So now the trades, which have apprenticeship programs.
They're hungry here in Will County, aren't they?
Yeah, they want people.
Right.
And you actually get paid.
Even while you're in the apprenticeship program, right.
And these are highly skilled jobs.
Sure.
They're not like the old days where you say a carpenter, anybody could do it.
Right.
Oh, no. These are
Even
skilled.
men and women going through a divorce, who may have been at home or in a job change, we're always encouraging them to go to the trades, and I'm amazed how they're able to get their apprenticeship accomplished and get a good job with good insurance and pension and retirement funds that are out there. So it is a good alternative, and I think sometimes we don't want to consider it because somehow we have a view of something as lesser than others, and that's an unfortunate view. I mean, at the bottom line is, we all get up every day and go to work, right? You do something for an occupation. And as a result of that, when I get to heaven, I'm going to kick Adam and Eve and say, what the world were you doing? Because the issue is that if you think that work comes from the fall of man, we all do it, right?
You've got
Each
that right.
and every one of us. And so as a result of it, we really have to think about that. Because the people that come through here indicate to me, well, I feel like I have a house mortgage already and I don't own a home. and that would be an example. And you're right that if we lowered the interest rate, at least it would give some flexibility. But I also think we have to take the elephant out of the room, that you don't have to go to the most expensive school. As a matter of fact, in our office, I will tell you where I went to school, but it's not relevant. I don't hang up the signs. I don't use that as promotion, because now that I've been out all these years, or you've been out all these years, does frankly anybody care where you went to school?
No.
No, they don't care. As long as you are skilled at what you do, you know what you're doing. So you really have to look at that education alternative.
Just to add on to that, I went Joliet Junior College. I went to Moraine Valley College.
Okay.
Undergrad stuff. Got all my prereqs. Then I went to St. Xavier University. When I was 50, I graduated.
Okay.
All right.
So that's back to school at a later age, right?
I thought I would be able to land a huge job.
Right.
Well, I was mistaken.
Right, you were mistaken, because that's not
They
always...
wanted experience.
Right, it doesn't always equate to that. Just because you have the degree doesn't mean that you're going to be making a lot of money instantly. And I do agree that people have that perception that somehow that's a magic ticket, and it's not. You do have to have the
Correct.
experience. But I think looking at alternatives for people like community colleges, we have a great community college here in Will County, right?
Absolutely. JJC's wonderful.
And you can take those classes, you can look at that alternative and see what's there. And one of the things I wanted to add in here is in the context, because we do divorce and we do paternity actions where parties were never married. And one of the rights that people have is a parent can sue the other for a contribution to the college education expenses. And in that factors in what the child is going to contribute as well as both parents. And we put a max on it under Illinois law, which is the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana campus. But that still is expensive.
Well, there's a problem with that too. So somebody that's making $35,000,
They can't afford it.
Where are they going to get the money to pay for any college?
Right. And then going into that debt, and I know that there might be different perspectives from different members of the judiciary about how far you should have to go into debt for the college education of your children, but it is a factor that has to be considered, but it is available. And it's interesting because in our world, in the family law world, is if the two of you were married, so if you and your wife were married and you did not want to send your child to college, you don't have an obligation to pay a penny, right?
Correct.
As a matter of fact, you don't even have an obligation after they graduate from high school to keep them in their home. You could say goodbye. That's not what people do, but you could. But in the context of the divorce situation or in the paternity cases, Illinois then has that provision in there that you could seek that contribution. And it's interesting because today we have one judge in DuPage County who declared that law unconstitutional. So we're going to see how far that gets.
Well, I think it's unconstitutional.
Well, it's very interesting, so we're going to see what happens because it's an interesting question about that equal application. So I think it's important to look at, and I think you bring a good point about that education, and one of the things that you try to do on county board is to make sure that there's some type of accessibility, correct?
Correct.
And that there's accessibility for jobs. So that accessibility comes many ways. 1, through economic development, 2, from having those options available, and then 3, those jobs that are available, the apprenticeship programs.
Correct.
Is there anything else that you would want to add to the community as
when
to
you
what to
talk
say to them?
about junior college,
Yes.
if you go to junior college first and you get all your prerequisites done, and I have experience because I did it, it's way cheaper to go there than it is to go to a four-year university and pay big money and then walk out with a huge debt.
Right. Well, the other thing is you might not know what you want to do, right?
Well, everybody changes.
Absolutely. You get in, you think that some job looks glorious or glamorous or whatever word you want to use, and at the end of the day, it's still called work, right? But you get there and then you want to change. And so as a result of it, having some of those prerequisites done. The other thing is that I know that a lot of our colleges and other local community programs offer return to work programs or displaced workers programs where you can get restarted, because understand that knowing computer skills and having that availability is important as well.
And Joliet Junior College has numerous, like you train to be a person that checks water.
Right.
They have computer programmers. They have medical
transcribers, right, and then different things that are really vocational focused.
Correct.
And so you can look at those programs as well, and that way you can get out without a huge debt, without carrying it. So I think the message here today from both of us is be careful before you go into that debt.
Very careful.
And then you have to pay it back if there's no way out of it. So proceed with caution.
Right.
Right.
You've got that right.
Well, it's nice talking to you.
Nice
today.
talking to you too.
Take
God
care.
bless you.